Amazed that the Lord's still using me. I don't know why. I don't know why. Um, is this on? We good? Okay, we're good. All right. Um, Ruth chapter 2 will be our text this morning, Ruth chapter 2. But to go back to the crescendo, I don't know why I'm stuck on that. But that crescendo that I learned from Lebo that time was a hymn, a song that we were singing about that I know my name is written there. And some of the verses that my name is in the book of life. Oh, bless the name of Jesus. I rise above all doubt and strife and read my title clear. And then came the chorus. Oh, I know my name is written there. In fact, I remember I was actually up there maybe in the corner singing. And I was next to Lebo, somewhere right around there, and it says, I know. And then Lebo went, I know. And I looked over at him. I thought, what is that, man? I don't like that. And he said, that's a crescendo. That's an affirmation. I know my name is written there. I'm sure y'all couldn't wait on that musical expertise this morning. Luke chapter number 2. Did I say Luke? I meant Ruth chapter number 2. You might want to hold off on anything you want to say about me until Ruth chapter number 2. Now Naomi had a kinsman of her husband, a man of great wealth, of the family of Elimelech, whose name was Boaz. And Ruth the Moabitess said to Naomi, please let me go to the field and glean among the ears of grain after one in whose sight I may find favor. And she said to her, go, my daughter. So she departed and went and gleaned in the field after the reapers. And she happened to come to the portion of the field belonging to Boaz, who was of the family of Elimelech. Now, behold, Boaz came from Bethlehem and said to the reapers, may the Lord be with you. And they said to him, may the Lord bless you. Then Boaz said to his servant, who was in charge of the reapers, whose young woman is this? And the servant in charge of the reapers replied, she is the young Moabite woman who returned with Naomi from the land of Moab. And she said, please let me glean and gather after the reapers among the sheaves. Thus she came and remained from the morning until now, and she has been sitting in the house for a little while. And then Boaz said to Ruth, listen carefully, my daughter, do not go to glean in another field. Furthermore, do not go on from this one, but stay here with my maids. And let your eyes be on the field which they reap, and go after them. Indeed, I have commanded the servants not to touch you. When you are thirsty, go to the water jars and drink from what the servants draw. And then she fell on her face, bowing to the ground, and said to him, why have I found favor in your sight, that you should take notice of me, since I am a foreigner? Boaz replied to her, he said, all that you have done for your mother-in-law after the death of your husband has been reported to me, and how you left your father and mother and the land of your birth and came to a people that you did not previously know. May the Lord reward your work and your wages be full from the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to seek refuge. Then she said, I have found favor in your sight, my Lord, for you have comforted me, and indeed have spoken kindly to your maidservant, though I am not like one of your maidservants. And at mealtime Boaz said to her, Come here, that you may eat of the bread and dip your piece of bread in the vinegar. So she sat beside the reapers and served her roasted grain, and he served her roasted grain, and she ate and was satisfied and had some left. And when she rose to glean, Boaz commanded his servant, saying, Let her glean even among the sheaves, and do not insult her. And also you shall purposely pull out for her some grain from the bundles, and leave it that she may glean, and do not rebuke her. So she gleaned. Then she about an eph of barley. She took it up and went into the city, and her mother-in-law saw what she had gleaned, and she took it out and gave to Naomi what she had left after she was satisfied. And her mother-in-law then said to her, Where did you glean today? And where did you work? May he who took notice of you be blessed. So she told her mother-in-law, with whom she had worked, and said, The name of the man with whom I work today is Boaz. And Naomi said to her daughter-in-law, May he be blessed of the Lord, who has not withdrawn his kindness to the living and to the dead. And Naomi said to her, The man is our relative. He is one of our closest relatives. Then Ruth the Moabitess said, Furthermore, he said to me, You should stay close to my servants until they have finished all my harvest. And Naomi said to Ruth, her daughter-in-law, It is good, my daughter, that you go out with the maids, so that others do not fall upon you in another field. So she stayed close by the maids of Boaz, in order to glean until the end of the barley harvest and the wheat harvest, and she lived with her mother-in-law. Man, there's a circumstances of chapter 1, which we talked about. There was a famine. There was death. Her husband, her sons, and they'd already left because of the famine, landed in the Moabite place, and by the way, which was the family of Lot, the Moabites. It's kind of interesting if you think about that. And so she comes back. These circumstances have brought her back to Bethlehem. And so now they're there, widowed women, no providers. And notice in verses 1 through 3, this is really just something we could park here a while and think a lot about over a period of time, and just really just absorb all that what occurred in those first 3 verses. Notice, if you will, that Ruth requested to glean in the field. So notice it said, verse 1, she said, that I may go and glean among the ears of the corn, and I may go and find this field, and that I may just go provide. So gleaning, or Israel law, we might say the law of Israel, and some provisions that they made were for the poor, that widows and orphans and even foreigners. And it allowed them to collect leftovers from the fields, from vineyards, from orchards after the harvest. It's kind of a form of social welfare. Instead of begging, they worked. And so, given the circumstances where she was at, she had left her homeland. She was a foreigner. She had no provider, no husband. No men, no brothers, nobody. And even in those circumstances, God's a provider. Notice in verse 3, So she departed and went and gleaned in the field after the reapers, and she happened to come upon the portion of the field belonging to Boaz. Just stumbled on it, right? Just so happened, like the way that that's phrased in there. In fact, let's not miss that this short phrase is probably one of the most theologically rich phrases we have in the book of Ruth. In fact, in all of Scripture. And the phrase literally means, and you look at it and you break it down, the phrase literally means in Hebrew, her chance chanced upon. So it means, so they would use that phrase as her chance chanced upon. And some would say, as luck would have it. Right? And luck would have it. Lo and behold, just happened to be right here. But see, I don't believe in luck. People say, "I'll just roll the dice and see how it comes out." I don't believe in luck. I don't believe in things of the stars aligning. I've heard people say, "Well, when the stars align just right, everything will work out." I say, I don't know what you're looking at, and I don't know what you're holding on to. I don't believe in any of these things, and the right moon at the right time, and the quarter moon. And I used to have a guy down in Alabama, love him to death. He's gone on to be with the Lord now. He was a character. His name was Auburn Cofield, and he told me that if I dug a hole when the moon was full and filled it back up at a certain time, it would only fill up about a quarter of it or a half, like that. And I said, and I thought, Auburn, what in the world are you talking about? If I take a dirt out and put it back in the hole, but they all of these signs and all of these things. I don't believe in luck. I don't think I chanced upon those things. Now, we often refer to this, and we should and understand it, that this is the providence of God. And the providence of God started in chapter 1 when there was a famine in the land, and Elimelech said, "We're going to a place where there isn't a famine." And in the providence of God, in the order of God, and in the way God orchestrate things out, even through death and grief, her husband was lost and her children were lost. And here is this Moabite woman, and in the providence of God in her life, she said, "I'm going to follow you." And now they're back in Bethlehem. And she just so happened to come upon this field. Now, what the providence of God does in our lives is to understand it in this term, that He governs everything and preserves everything in the universe. In other words, this kind of avoids four views, that eliminates four views. One view is that deism. A lot of people think and have the idea that God set the world in order and it just, hey, it is what it is. It comes out. It's just a spinning and there's no involvement whatsoever. There's pantheism, which means that God and creation are not separated, that it's all one. Then it also eliminates randomness or chance or any of those things, or fate. I've heard people say that. Well, it's fate that you found this job, or it's fate that you bought that car at that time, or it's fate that you weren't here, or it's fate that you weren't there. It's ironic, right? It's a sort of an iconic thing in biblical storytelling, how the author uses this to highlight what seems to be an accidental form in human perspective. And that's how humans look at that. They look at things in terms of, well, at just the right time, I was at just the right place, I made just the right decision, and that just so happened to be right here, right now, and there, and everything just worked out somehow. However, it is not just things coming together. It is not just chance. It is not just doing the right thing and having them fall together. It is the providential work of God behind the scenes in every detail of your life. And by the way, it does not mean for you to sit back and not do anything. And just say, well, if, the Lord's going to pay my mortgage, I'm just going to sit here, he's going to pay my mortgage. No, you better get up and go find a job. And he'll pay for it by that means. Every delay, and I'm learning this, but every circumstance, in every situation, every delay, everything that doesn't go the way I planned, whether I see it or not, is God's providential work at hand. A couple of months ago, we were grilling some hamburgers. I was on vacation. It was a Friday. You'll see how this all kind of works out. I was on vacation. It was a Friday. And we were grilling some hamburgers. And they were just about done. And I got a Blackstone grill, and it was just smelling so good. I was hungry. And then out of the corner of my eye, I saw Rhonda walking up to me. And she don't ever come out there for check on me or nothing. I said, oh. I said, what is it? And she said, Carrie's got a flat and she's on the interstate. And I said, can it wait till after we eat? No, I didn't say that. I said, all right. So let's go. We had Ezra with us. I said, let's get up. I said, where's she at? It's between Villa Rica and Temple. She's on the westbound side. It's 6 o'clock on a Friday night. I'm going to my truck, and I said, and for some reason, I said, I'm going to grab my air compressor. I've never done that. I just went down there and grabbed my air compressor, put it in the back of my truck, and we head off. And here we go. We're headed off, and she's on this bound side. I know where she's at, so we're coming this way. I can't cut across the interstate. Well, I was going to, but Rhonda said, you can't do that. So anyway, we go all the way down the end, and I come back around, and as I'm coming up on the left side, she's on the left side. I love Carrie to death, but most of you know her. That sometimes thinking you kind of misses it. Anyway, so I'm like, okay, all right. I was on the left side. I said, okay. So I'm already, and as I'm going, before I get off, I look over at Rhonda, grab her hand, and I said, we need the Lord to go before us. That's no joke. That's not spirit. I'm just telling you. And then the Lord will go before. So I get up, turn around, get on that side, come up through there, park in front of her, and can you guess which tire it was? The right front tire. And I'm sitting there, and they're just humming past me. And I told her, I said, you call the sheriff, call somebody out. We got somebody out here. This was before I got there. And they're just humming past me, and they're just going and going. And I'm trying to get that, I'm looking at it, trying to get the jack under there. And then about that time, the sheriff shows up, and they pull behind us and hit the lights. Now everybody slows down. But here's my point. I get the tire off, get the jack up, pull the tire out. I go to grab that donut. It's flat. And you know what I just happened to have in the back of my truck? But that's not it. I said, I got that out, aired it up, got that the jack, and she's pulled down just a little bit, and we got her, and I got that jack, got it jacked up, got the tire off, airing it up. It's sitting up there, bare tire. I grabbed that spare tire, I put it on there, and the way I have to sit, because it's just I'm old and fat, so the way I got to sit is I got it in there, and I got my leg up under, putting it on there. I get that bolt 2 turns, and that jack collapses. But you know what's on that tire or on that rim? That one turn. Rhonda panicked. we get it on there all the time. We're on the way home, and it's silent in our truck. I mean, we're just both sitting there going, well, it was a providence of God to get one bolt on. It just so happened not to fall until there was one bolt on there. So when you talk about she just so happened to randomly, off all these fields, she tells Naomi, I'm going to go find a field. I don't even know what field I'm going to. I'm just going to go look. And of all these fields, it just so happens to land in the field of Boaz. And it wasn't by luck, and it wasn't by chance. God's sovereignty is in the ordinary events of your life. And you don't even know it. Part of the spiritual progression of sanctification is asking the Lord to help you in delays. Why is my flight delayed? I got to get... Well, it's not just random stuff. And notice in verse 17, notice how God provides, or verses 4 through 17. But notice in verse 7, I think it is, right? Let's see here. Yeah, verse 7. So she finds the field, and Boaz asks, well, whose woman is this? Who is this young woman? And notice the response in verse 7. It said, she has been sitting in the house for a little while. She's been sitting there. You ever really felt the Lord, you know you're where you're supposed to be, you're trying, and you just get there and you got to wait? Just wait. Lord, I thought you wanted me to come here. Nothing's happening. A missionary friend of mine spent 2 years gathering support to go on the mission field. Took his whole family with him. Took them all, uprooted their life here. 7 years, didn't see a convert. There she was. She said, I'm going to go find a field. And then she got there and says she was just waiting. In verse 8 and 9, you find that Boaz told her the kind favor of Boaz we see. When he said to her, he said, listen carefully, my daughter, do not go and glean in another field. Don't go anywhere else. In fact, do not go on from this one, but stay here with my maids. And let your eyes be on the field which they reap, and go after them. Indeed, I have commanded the servants not to touch you. Look at the providence of God in that. That was not typical. He said, I'm protecting you. I'm giving you this field to glean. And in fact, I'm going to tell them, because you're a foreigner, not to even touch you. It's God providing for His own. And in fact, notice what else he said. He said to her, and drink from where the servants drink. Right? Oh, just come on in. Just drink where they drink. Here's the field. So she leaves. She finds a field. She's been waiting for a while. And then Boaz comes in and says, here it is. Drink from where they drink. Glean in this field. And listen to her response. Verse 10. Why have I found favor in your sight, that you should take notice of me, since I am a foreigner? Hey, listen. This is an amazing grace that you and I cannot even understand. Think about your life. Think about how good God's been to you. Think about Him finding you in that miry, dirty, filthy slime that you were in, away from the fold, doing your own thing, living your own life, being who you want to be. moving along in life, saying, I got this, I'm fine, and then all of a sudden that shepherd's crook reaches around your neck and pulls you in. He found you. He came for you. And you were right where he wanted you. It was the right moment, the right time, the right place, the right events, the right circumstances. And then we look back on our lives now, and I do the same thing right now. I look back on my life and I'm like, Lord, I cannot believe that you have been so long-suffering for me. Why did you choose me? Why? I said, don't you know me? Well, of course he knows you, right? She said, why have I found favor in your sight? I'm a foreigner. I don't even belong here. Listen to what Ephesians 2:12 says. Remember that you were at the time separate from Christ, excluded from the commonwealth of Israel, and strangers to the covenants of promise, having no hope and without God in the world. That's who we were. But listen to Ephesians 2:19. So then you are no longer strangers and aliens, but you are fellow citizens with the saints and are of God's household. We might ask ourselves the same question today in our lives and consider our faithfulness and say, Lord, why have you found favor how have I found favor in your sight? It's an amazing grace that cannot be described. Notice in verse 11. This is what Boaz said about her. He said, Boaz, all that you've done for your mother-in-law after the death of your husband has been fully reported to me. So he knew of her faithfulness. He knew that she had said, hey, I'm going to, remember verse 16, 7, or go back to chapter 1. She said, I'm going to follow you and your God. Where you go, I'm going. If I die, I die. I think it's like Esther. You remember Esther said, hey, if I go into the king, and if I die, I die. If I live, I live. And so she had said, no, I'm going to do that. He had heard of that. He had knew of that. And notice what he said. Verse 11. Of how you have left your father and mother and the land of your birth and came to a people that you did not previously know. That's it. Strikingly similar to what it means to be a follower of Christ, is it not? Remember what Jesus said in Luke 14? If anyone comes to me and does not hate his own father and mother and his wife and children and brothers and sisters, yes, even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. Whoever does not carry his own cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. And yet today we live in a nation and in a country that God has so richly blessed. And I say this not sarcastically, but it is the easiest place to be a follower of Christ. I get text messages from some of friends in Africa, and they'll send me pictures, and they'll tell me what they're doing. They'll tell me where they're going. They'll show me these pictures of where they're at and what they're doing and how I sat there and go, man, and I'm worried about if it's going to be hot and cold in the church. Lord, help me. We live in the easiest place to be a follower of Christ, yet let us get one excuse to abandon the Lord's day. Let us get one excuse not to read our Bible. Let us get one more, I've got to do this. He said, you left your whole country. And you came. And here's what he said. He said, you have come. And why did she come? Verse 12. Your wages be full from the Lord, the God of Israel, whose wings you have come to seek refuge. Psalm 36:7, how precious in your loving kindness, O God, and the children of men take refuge in the shadow of your wings. We see the kindness of Boaz and the grace of Boaz as she responded about the favor of God, even though she wasn't like one of them. In fact, we read through here, Boaz showed the increasing interest in Ruth by inviting her to share in the noon meal. That didn't happen. The meal consisted of bread and food, wine, vinegar, roasted grain. In fact, Boaz himself served her. I've missed that. Many times I read Ruth, I just never saw it. He served her. And as she sat with the reapers, Ruth ate until she was satisfied, it says, and with all the food left over, she then left and returned to the fields. Notice in verse 15 and 16. After that meal, the foreigner and the stranger was given opportunity. As a foreigner, she was given opportunity to glean among the sheaves, not just picking up what was left. And they were also told to purposely leave bundles behind. Isn't God just providential? I mean, and she just so happened to get in the field, right? But notice in verse 17 and 19. Notice what verse 17 says, and this just kind of sat with me. I thought a lot about it. It says, so she gleaned in the field until evening. She just worked. And she found joy in what God provided. There she was, waiting a little while. Boaz comes along, says, who is this? And then he says, hey, won't you have lunch with us? I'm going to have them leave grain, not just what's left over. And it says, so she just gleaned in the field. She just gleaned until evening time. And what a great, what great joy God gives us to do our own gleaning and just see the joy of His providential hand. It says she gleaned about 20 to 30 pounds. That's a lot. Then verse 20 to 23. So she goes back. And what a day this has been. She goes back and Naomi says, this may he be, or she asked the question her mother-in-law sent in verse 19, where did you glean today? Then she said, well, there's a guy named Boaz. And she said, well, Boaz is our kinsman. The Levitical law made that Boaz qualified to be a redeemer. And I'll just give you a little highlight of what that means. It means you could preserve the name of the dead who had died, by marrying Ruth. And we eventually know that's exactly what happens. But the responsibilities of a kinsman redeemer, avenging the death of a relative, marrying a childless widow of a deceased brother, buying back a family land that had been sold, buying a family member who had been sold as a slave, and looking after the needy and helpless members of the family. So he qualified as that, and Naomi knew that, and she recognized that. And notice what she says to her in verse 22. She said, don't go to another field. Don't leave. Don't go anywhere else. Because if you go somewhere else, you won't have protection. Don't go anywhere else because you won't have security. Boaz, if you think about what Boaz did for her, a foreigner, he let her drink from the same drinks that his own servants were drinking from. He let her eat at the noon meal with the maidservants. And he said, I'm going to give you the best here. In fact, I'm telling and instructing those who are reaping to leave you some grain, not just the leftovers. Don't go anywhere else. Don't leave. She said, I can just see now, please stay there, because this one is a redeemer. And it says that, so she just stayed and gleaned. Notice verse 23. So she stayed close by the maids of Boaz in order to glean until the end of the barley harvest. You know, we've sung a song, I know we've sung it before. It's got its application for sure. If you can leave, then you never were a part of the family. People say, it got popular for a while, right? You know, I've decided to leave the faith. You didn't leave anything because you never had anything. Every single one of us in here that are born again and family of God and followers of God have drifted at times. Maybe we've gotten a little off step. Maybe you've said, I'm just tired. I don't want to do this anymore. Somebody's did this. Somebody's did that. You've got frustrated. Maybe burdens, weights. All of those things have just mounted up. But you just can't go back. Hey, I say this. I don't want to go back. I like this field. This is a field where God's, I don't want to make this some sort of weird analogy, but this is where God provides. This is where He's feeding. This is where He's taking care of me. And He's doing so. This is why Naomi said, don't leave, man. Don't, and just glean along. And so whatever circumstance, whatever trial has brought you to this place, God just so happened to bring you there. So just glean. It's often uncertain trials and circumstances that get us to a redemptive place in our lives. Let me give you a couple of things here and I'll be done. Tragedy, age, famines, and a faithful follower. That just kind of sums up the first two chapters. There are times that we go and we have to wait, like Ruth, verse 7. She had been sitting here a little while. A famine and a tragedy brought her to a field that she didn't even know, but the Lord knew what field she was to go. And in fact, some of you may find yourself in an affliction and you just seem to be waiting. But Psalm 119:71 says, it is good for me that I was afflicted, that I may learn your statutes. Wherever the Lord has you now, it's where He wants you. Just glean and reap. Just enjoy. Lord, blessed be your name. But what is, I think, the key point of all of this, and kind of the main point is we look at is that verse 10. Why have I found favor in your sight? Because I'm a foreigner. See, we can't answer that question. Mercy. I don't have any human expressions of why God found me for whatever reason. But Ephesians 2:4 says, but God, being rich in mercy, because of His great love in which He loved us, Romans 5:8 says, but God demonstrates His own love toward us in that while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. It is the divine providence and working of God that caused your circumstances and your trials to bring you to a field, to make you wait, to see the Redeemer. And it is God who is at work in your life right now. You may be waiting. You may be on the way. But my God is not unconcerned or ill aware of what is happening in your life. Not at all. Lord, why me? But God. But God. Let's stand together. Gary, would you come? What are we going to sing this morning? Near the cross. Near the cross. Before they sing, just consider today. We got men and ladies will pray with you, talk with you, questions. This is an opportunity only the Lord can speak to you. I can't. Amen. Only He can take a cold stone heart and make it flesh. Absolutely. So nothing I say or do will change that, but He will. Amen. And we want to be able to provide for you and help you if that's something you need. The Lord's anything at all. We're here. After church, now, doesn't matter. So let's sing Near the Cross. You know that's important, right? Near the cross. Well, that'll